Hello everyone, my name is Alvia and this is Star Season Soul Fractals. And if you're new to me and my channel and my work, just so you know, I use he, him pronouns. One of the things that I wanted to discuss today has to do with spiritual and personal changes that I've experienced as I've transitioned from female to male. Okay, so I have been on testosterone for about a year, 5 months, I believe. At the time of posting this video, I have been on testosterone for 2 whole years. Well, that has been quite some time for my body to get used to this. Well, not new, no, new hormone, but a different dose of a hormone that was already in my body. But as we know, both females and males and everyone in between, we all have the same hormones, just different doses, really. So that's just one thing that I will be discussing today. And you are free to ask questions if you want to make sure that your question is answered and you're really curious about something, or maybe you've been wondering about, like, if I've used a word and you don't understand the word and you want to know what the word is, and like what it really means, you can ask. If you come from a different spiritual lineage, or just a different culture, and therefore you're trying to maybe understand, okay, what the heck is Alvia talking about when he's saying these things, you can, ask me anything, really. My channel is focused around the spiritual evolution. When we speak about spiritual evolution, there are certain topics that we also sort of include in that. And one of these things is like healing, for example, and energy work. Those are the things that I've personally explored a lot on my path. Different aspects of personal growth, different aspects of just our spiritual awareness, multidimensional aspects of consciousness, right? So there's like a lot to do, a lot of things that have to do with ascension and with spiritual awakening and with spirituality on its own. Like I said, I wanted to discuss the spiritual changes and the sort of personal changes on while being on and having been on testosterone. The first things first, the very sort of obvious one for me was just the inner peace and how much less I experienced this sort of inner conflict. Even when I've been looking through, and I'm about to burn some journals again. So I was looking through some of these old things that I was writing, and I was struggling so much. And it's like now I look back and I feel so different. And I'm just wondering, okay, why did I let myself struggle so long? But as we know, what we didn't know back then is, what we didn't know. We only knew what we knew, and we've had our perspective in the past for the reasons that we had, right? Not like saying this from a place of thinking that I sort of should have known better, or well, maybe I should have, I don't know. But it's just one of those things where we're changing the past, or kind of coming at things with that perspective. And especially if it comes from this view of shame, or if it comes from this place of where you're sort of beating yourself up about your past, or about making certain decisions, it's not really productive and it's not really useful. Okay, so here's a little bit about my journey. I've been in some pretty, in the past I was in psychiatric treatment quite a few times. So I was hospitalized a few times because things were so incredibly heavy. I thought that things would not get better, that things would not change. I didn't really see a way out. Because of that, I really felt like a victim. And there was just a lot of this victim mentality that, I still had going on. Even in regards to, my gender identity, this was something that, I just pushed away. I pushed it away for more than 2 decades. Like, it wasn't until I, hit my 20s that, I was ready to maybe start to look at that a little bit. Once I did, of course, it didn't immediately make my life turn around, because I also hadn't necessarily dealt with some of the traumas that I had. Even when you start to, explore your gender identity, you don't immediately go on hormones. Like, that's just not how things work. And especially over here in Finland, these things are kind of like really gate kept. So people don't really just get on hormones. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that people really have. They think that people just go to the doctor and get hormones. And I mean, sometimes, I've heard that some people, have it that easy in some other countries, but over here, no way. It doesn't really happen that easily always. Like, if it does, it happens through like different means and different paths. But even when it comes to those, you sort of have to know who you're going to be in contact with, right? So it's not like it's all just like a clear path always. Yeah, I used to live a very different experience. And I know that even before I went on testosterone, even though I had done like a lot of healing and a lot of purification within myself, and even though I've always kind of, been wanting to really be in tune with that inner peace, then why the heck did I have that depression for so long? But like I said in the beginning, I approach a lot of things from the perspective of ascension and from deeper healing and from evolution. So when it comes to, before I'm talking just before I went on testosterone, at that point I felt like depression had already, gone away. And a part of this was because I was already very clear on the fact that I'm actually transgender, and I had come out, and I had also been doing these multidimensional practices, and I find that's also been one of the reasons why a lot of my healing processes have accelerated. And that's actually one of the other points that I wanted to talk about here, which is these processes have become a lot more quicker. And a part of that is because once my gender dysphoria started to lessen, once it started to decrease, I started to experience much less density in my energy fields. And there's also this one misconception that I've heard from some people in the Ascension community. Unfortunately, people talk about things that they know nothing about. So some people have been saying this, that, oh God, people have this like a cloud of dysphoria around them at all time. They hold this self-hatred in their hands. No, that doesn't apply to all of us. You can only say that if you have talked to every single trans person on this fucking planet, because you cannot generalize things like that. And honestly, if you're a trans person and you do energy clearing, you do energy work, and you've got your dysphoria figured out, no, you are probably not carrying all of that around you at all times. And it's funny that they're sort of talking about this when there's a bunch of people, whatever their gender identity, whatever their sexual orientation is, whatever their skin color is, they're carrying a shitload of stuff in their energy field all the time. Like, they're holding so much crap in their field that they're not clearing, and they don't even have to be trans, and you're not saying anything about that. So, like, figure out your priorities, okay? It's so annoying. You can just tell what some people's agenda is. You can tell what some people's deeper motivations are for talking about things when they don't have, first of all, any experiences. And like, some of these people claim to have worked with trans people, and even if you did, that's still just a handful that you worked with. And it's sort of it concerns me, because some of these people have also spoken about trans topics in from that very sort of cis heteronormative lens, where it's just like internalized transphobia, but it's not the same as, of course, as transgender persons internalized transphobia. It's the cis persons internalized transphobia. That's why, like I get it. Like, it comes from the conditioning. It comes from this programming of it's just something that they perceive as negative, and that's why they feel the need to attack it. My healing process and all of my processes have really sped up. I don't have that much density in my field anymore, and I didn't really even have that much to begin with. But it's like it's much less. Like, I'm a lot more clear in my energy field. I'm able to sort of tap into cycles and the sort of deeper things a lot more. So the voice and the expression. Okay, so this is something that is still a bit of a process. I remember when within like my first year of testosterone, I sort of felt it was a little bit weird to get used to my voice and to get to sort of speak. Even it was a little bit weird. And I've also been like a lot more quiet, like online, if that makes sense, like in like comment sections and stuff, because I've sort of a part of that has also just been my energy sensitivity, because I can this is weird, but I can feel people read my comments. Even it's like, because sometimes when people really focus into other people, they sort of send really intense energy, even if it's like, and sometimes it's not even like super intense, but it's like sometimes when we focus on somebody and the focus is like really strong, we can feel it in the energy field. And there's also a lot of like other things that I pick up, for example, on the internet, just out and about all the time. And I don't really don't really hear from a lot of people being this sensitive, where like I've heard of the whole healer thing, where you feel other people's like physical problems, for example. That's something that I've heard of other people also speak about, and that's something that I've got going on. You continue on the voice and expression. I'm still kind of navigating this part, because I'm just kind of getting used to again speaking up and speaking about things that are meaningful to me, and kind of finding my voice again, because now I have a new voice, a different voice than what I had before testosterone. And so that's quite an interesting part of this whole thing. And the expression part of it is another thing. Yeah, that's the thing. That's exactly, I'm aligning with the true voice. And that's a process. So just the learning processes, when I learn things, it's like it sort of gets integrated. Yeah, it sort of gets integrated and woven into my already existing knowledge, and it sort of either replaces certain things that I've known about, or it sort of adds on to it. And I learn the best when I am in tune with my higher aspects. I've had these different sort of phases in the way I've expressed myself and in the way I've communicated. And Blue Crescent Tarot here said it's alignment process, and that's one of the dynamics that we can have, like alignment and sort of adjusting into that. And kind of that kind of also leads into the sort of redefined human experience. The redefined human experience. This is just the word, because I was just kind of tuning into the things that I wanted to, that first of all I know to be true, but I always work with my higher levels at the same time. And having my human experience redefined means that I understand, first of all, what are the sort of basic building blocks of a healthy human experience. What's like the bare minimum? And what are the different, like how can I experience my humanness? How can I explore being human, a spiritual being, having a human experience? How does all of that come together? What are these different areas of my humanness that are important for me to explore? Yeah, I've been kind of considering different things that have to do with being a human, and and how I feel about those things. On some kind of level, I am experiencing a different a version of humanity, and different energies, of course. And one aspect of this also leads to another one. So this is interaction. So my interaction with others, interaction with universe, interaction with everything is just so different. It's a lot more peaceful, and it's a lot more, warm and present. And this also has been something that, I've been it's also been a bit of a process. But, some of these very big, I suppose, life changes that have also come with transitioning have been, I've been going on dates with people, and I've been trying to use dating apps, and I've been doing that kind of stuff. So it's been like a thing that I've been learning to do after like a very long break. And in regards to this, I've had some pretty rough experiences in this area as well. I'm also talking about like the past. So like my past traumas before I started to do this again, but also of course having gender dysphoria to the point that I had before made it a lot more complicated and a lot harder. So now that's just a lot more smooth, and it's a lot more easier to just be open and just be honest and to be vulnerable and to be expressive. And so I just kind of wanted to mention that, because sometimes people just sort of assume that people kind of don't have any baggage anywhere, or that people are just born perfect. It's not, that's not how things really work today. If I want to change something in my life, I will do what I can to change it. And I find that because, well, maybe it's just because I'm just a natural, very optimistic person, and because I do rely on my sovereignty. It's much easier for me to really take everything as a growth experience. I've been pretty good at like dealing with the sort of heaviest experiences that I've had. So yeah, I think that's also been like one benefit of like going into these processes. But sometimes what I find more so my issue is getting out of that, comfort zone a little bit. But of course, every meeting with, every new human being, it's like there's going to be some level of trust that you're going to need to have. And then either that trust is going to remain, or the trust is going to dissipate for whatever reason. And that also actually happened one time. This was pretty recent. I met someone for the first time, having given them a chance, and then they sort of breached my boundaries a little bit. So that was an unpleasant experience, but I didn't let that necessarily, I mean, of course I was processing it for a while, kind of getting over it and everything. But eventually I was able to heal that. And these processes, like I said, they're a lot more quicker now. And I'm still doing all of my energy work practices and all my energy work and stuff like that. I'm still in deep connection with my guides and such, and with the infinite spark of all creation. So because I'm doing what I'm doing, that also really helps with this stuff. But I find that because my body and because my energy bodies have been sort of clearing that sort of density and the energies that I used to be dealing with in the past, it's definitely helped a lot with making these processes a lot more smoother. And what it has also allowed me to get into is sort of the energy of stability and balance, and the sort of strength of will without forcing. So it's kind of like resilience. So it's a different level of resilience. And I remember even like last year, about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, when I legally changed my gender because the law changed. And this is what I learned. This is where I suppose we still need politics, unfortunately, because legalizing things requires us to have certain agreements go through in the political spheres. So unfortunately, in order for each of us to have equal human rights, we would have to sort of have these things be agreed upon in that scale of things. So the law changed last year to the favor of transgender people, and for us to be able to legalize our gender without having to go through all of these processes, without having to, be on hormones or have surgeries or have diagnosis even. So those two things were separated, which is really supporting of people's sovereignty and their autonomy in regards to, legalizing their gender and what they want that to be in their legal documents. And so that's really good, because sometimes, again, these processes can take very long. Like the diagnosis can take very long. There's a whole lot of reasons why that is. Okay, some of these reasons are like really dumb. So I don't really want to go too much into that, because then I'm just gonna be annoyed. I remember at one point of my journey, this was already like before I went on testosterone, I was trying to understand forcing of things. Like there were some things where I was trying to force certain things, but then I started to really learn about that. And I find that especially now that I have been transitioning, it has been much more easy for me to not force things and to really sort of have that strong will, but not force things, and still kind of have that resilience to stay balanced and to stay stable. This is the weirdest part. I'm leaving the weirdest one for the last, which is crystalline skin. And so this started to happen actually pretty early on, which was wonderful, very interesting. I did not expect it to happen, but it was so weird, because like I had actually been trying to get crystalline skin for like a good, I'd say, couple of years, a few years. It just wouldn't happen. But then after a few months of being on testosterone, I got crystalline skin. Like it just sparkled like crazy in the sun. I don't know if it's sparkling right now. Pretty shiny, but I don't know. That's the freaky part of Ascension, when the skin starts to become crystalline. Like a lot of your carbon cells have transformed into crystalline. That's a process that some of us go through. And that's the availability for light, because there isn't that much density in the body and in the energy bodies, in the other energy bodies other than the physical. So when I say in the body, that's just a reference to physical body. But the other energy bodies also, they clear through quite a lot. Like just imagine if, let's say you're like really cold and you cannot handle cold, and then you're just like cold, and you kind of get miserable when you're cold for too long, and then at some point it starts to get warm, so you start to feel a lot better. Now the energy that came from the miserability of being cold might still be there, but as you start to get warmer, it starts to be a lot more easy for you to, tolerate your sort of existence in that state, and you're not necessarily going to, well, you're obviously not feeling cold anymore because you're warm, but that older experience starts to kind of dissipate. Soon enough, you forget you're cold to begin with. Weird compromise for something that's like a lot more uncomfortable. Like it's very uncomfortable to, and the sort of feel the disconnection between who you are and what your body is. It's very, like, for me, it wasn't really about self-hate or anything. I didn't hate myself, apart from when I was a lot younger. Because when I was younger, when I was a teenager, yeah, fuck yeah, I hated myself. But when I got into my 20s, especially in my later 20s, at that point I had already learned a lot about self-love. And so transitioning for me was also a part of that self-love process. It's because I love myself, I wanted to make sure that I feel comfortable in my body, and that I feel like this is my vessel, that this is my temple, that I can fill with spirit, that my vessel is full of spirit. Like I said in the beginning, there's just a lot of misconceptions, a lot of weird things that people assume, and things that are very almost disturbing. Just know that this is coming from intentions to defend my community, okay? Because it honestly wouldn't be a problem if those people would acknowledge that their perspective come from, again, internalized transphobia and in the cis heteronormative culture that they have lived in. And because in those kind of cultures, as most of us anyway have grown up in that, in those social environments, these things have been displayed as like negative and shameful, and that's not what they're supposed to be. I mean, transgender people have been around before even the core family, even before like what some people say is like the core family. These are social constructs. I wouldn't feel comfortable receiving healing from someone who doesn't want to support transgender people in having their bodily autonomy, or from someone who reinforce these negative ideas about transgender people, somebody who basically wants to convert us. That's a Christian practice, by the way. That's what Christians still do to this day, and they do it with gay people. They try to convert people, not just into Christianity, but to what they would rather like the world to look like, which is cis hetero. So they're just trying to convert people into all kinds of things, which is really weird. So, like, can we maybe not have it in these communities that are about human evolution into pure unity consciousness, into pure heart based consciousness? I might talk more about my own healing practice, and I do offer some, like you may have seen on this channel, I've got a couple of activations and some energy work, right? I focus more around the energy work and sort of working with the energy bodies and working with, again, our higher aspects, our higher selves, and those kind of things, and starseed consciousness, and again, evolution from all aspects. The ascension practice is very expansive, because it has to do with all of these different parts as well. So it isn't just expansion in spiritual terms, but it's many different functions and methods and ways of doing spiritual practice coming together. If you have any more questions or concerns or something that you want to ask, you would be putting those below. And thank you again for everyone who joined here. I will see you again in the shorts feed, or in just the regular YouTube feed at some point. Okay, bye.